Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to really get your hands dirty with Angular 19.
We're going deep today, that's for
You
sure.
guys sent in a ton of articles, blog posts, even some forum discussions.
Mm.
It's quite a lot to unpack.
Seems like Angular 19 is making some big moves. Definitely a lot of buzz around it.
So what we'll do today is break down all those juicy new features.
Figure out what's really important.
What's going to change the game for developers?
Exactly. No more wading through pages of documentation.
We've done the heavy lifting for you. So let's jump right in. First up, got to talk about performance.
Always a hot topic, right?
I mean, who doesn't love a fast website?
No one, that's for sure. And Angular 19 is bringing some serious firepower to the table with things like incremental hydration.
Okay, incremental hydration. Sounds a bit technical.
It is, but think of it this way. It's all about making your web apps feel snappier, more responsive.
So even if there's a ton of stuff happening behind the scenes.
The user doesn't have to wait for it all to load before they can actually start interacting with the page.
Oh, I like the sound of that. And how does server-side rendering tie into this?
Well, that's another big piece of the performance puzzle. Angular 19 has made some improvements there, too.
So we're getting faster initial page loads.
Exactly. Faster load times, smoother interactions, happy users all around.
Can't argue with that. And happier developers, too, because it sounds like Angular 19 is packed with features to streamline the development workflow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about hot module replacement, or HMR, for styles and templates.
I've heard good things about HMR.
It's a real game changer. Think about this. You're working on your Angular app, tweaking CSS, making small HTML changes. With HMR, you see those changes instantly in the browser.
Wait, no more refreshing the entire page every time you make a tiny change.
Gone. You stay in the zone, your workflow is smoother, and you're just way more productive.
That's a huge time saver. And it looks like Angular 19 is also embracing standalone components as the default now.
Yep, no more messing around with ng modules for simple components.
So less boilerplate code.
Exactly. Less code, cleaner project structure. It's a win-win. Makes it way easier to get started with Angular too, especially for newcomers.
All right, things are about to get a little more complex, but also super interesting. Let's dive into reactivity in Angular 19. I'm seeing linked signal and resource popping up everywhere.
Ah, yes. Getting into the nitty-gritty now.
So in simple terms, what are these things all about?
Think of them as tools for managing the state of your application and handling all those asynchronous operations. You know, things like fetching data from a server.
Okay, that makes sense. But why are these new tools so important?
They bring a more organized and structured approach to reactivity in Angular. And trust me, as your applications grow, that's going to become more and more crucial.
So it's about future-proofing your code.
Absolutely. Making sure your apps can handle complex data flows and stay maintainable as they evolve.
Got it. Now let's talk about something a bit more visually exciting. Angular Material.
Ah, finally. Angular Material is looking pretty sleek with the official arrival of Material Design 3.
Yeah, lots of people have been waiting for this one. So what does this mean for developers and users?
Well, first of all, you get all those beautifully designed components that follow the latest material design specs.
So a consistent modern look across all your Angular apps.
Exactly. And it's not just about aesthetics. Material Design 3 also places a huge emphasis on accessibility, so you can be sure your apps are inclusive for everyone.
And on top of that, there are a bunch of cool new features in the CDK.
Yeah, we've got some goodies.
I've got my eye on that two-dimensional drag and drop.
Yeah, that's a big one. Makes it super easy to create intuitive interfaces for things like rearranging lists.
Or maybe organizing elements on a dashboard.
Exactly. Lots of possibilities there. And then you've got tab reordering, which lets users customize their workspace.
That's pretty neat. And hey, did we finally get a time picker?
Yes, the long-awaited time picker is finally here. No more hacking together custom solutions.
All right, now for something a little more adventurous. Let's talk about Zoneless Angular.
Ooh, yeah, this is exciting. A little bit experimental, but...
Definitely pushing the boundaries.
So as you know, Angular typically relies on zone.js for change detection.
Keeps things ticking along smoothly.
Right. But Zone.js can sometimes add a bit of overhead. So Angular 19 is exploring the possibility of running without it.
And what's the potential benefit there?
Performance, performance, performance. Early tests are showing some pretty significant gains.
But I'm guessing this is still in the early stages.
Very early. Not something I'd recommend for every project just yet. But it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
So for now, probably best to stick with zone.js, unless you really know what you're doing.
Exactly. All right, now let's circle back to server-side rendering for a moment. We talked about how it helps with initial load times and SEO.
Right, making those first impressions count.
Well, Angular 19 is taking SSR to the next level with something called Event Replay. And get this, it's enabled by default for all SSR apps now.
Okay, break it down for me. What does Event Replay actually do?
So imagine a user lands on your site and they click a button or start typing in a form field.
Before the page is fully loaded.
Exactly. With Event Replay, those interactions are captured and then replayed once the client-side application kicks in.
Ah, so there's no lag, no lost actions, just a seamless experience from the get-go.
Precisely. It's a small change that makes a huge difference in how your app feels to the user.
All right, next up. This one sounds a bit more technical, but really useful for optimizing performance. Rote-level rendering control.
Yeah, this gives developers a lot more fine-grained control over how their application is rendered.
So not everything has to be server-side rendered or client-side rendered.
Right. You can choose the best approach for each individual route. Some pages might be better suited for server-side rendering.
Like, say, a blog post that you want to rank well in search results.
Exactly. While others might be highly interactive and perform better with client-side rendering.
This really puts the power in the developer's hands.
It does. Flexibility is key.
And speaking of things that are key, let's not forget about security.
Of course. And Angular 19 has stepped up its game in this department too. We've now got automatic generation of a hash-based content security policy, or CSP.
Okay, that sounds important, but
I know, lots of jargon.
what does it actually mean for the security of our apps?
In simple terms, it helps protect your application from common web vulnerabilities.
Like cross-site scripting attacks and things like that.
Exactly. It's like an extra layer of defense, making sure only trusted scripts and resources are allowed to run on your site.
So one less thing for developers to worry about.
Exactly. Angular's got your back.
And lastly, let's give some love to the Angular language service.
Oh yeah, the language service is getting some nice improvements in Angular 19.
Always appreciate better tools that make our lives easier.
For sure. One of the key focuses is on helping developers write cleaner, more maintainable code.
So less time spent refactoring and debugging down the road.
You got it. There are also improvements to the automatic migration of inputs, outputs, and view queries.
Which essentially means,
It's easier to keep your code base up to date with the latest Angular APIs.
awesome. So less manual work and fewer headaches for developers.
Exactly. Angular 19 is all about making things smoother and more efficient.
Wow. Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah.
Angular 19 is bringing a ton of new features to the table.
Definitely a lot to unpack.
What are your biggest takeaways from all of this?
For me, it's all about the emphasis on performance. I mean, we see it everywhere, from the rendering improvements to the exploration of zoneless Angular. And of course, the focus on developer experience is huge.
Making Angular even more enjoyable to work with.
Exactly.
So whether you're a seasoned Angular pro or just getting started, Angular 19 has something for everyone.
Definitely worth diving in and exploring all the new possibilities.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for our deep dive into Angular 19. We've only scratched the surface, but I hope this has given you a good overview of what's new and exciting.